appears to be the most difficult identity to let go of is the identification we have with thoughts. I mean, some thoughts can be so sneaky and sticky that most of the time we don't even realize we are identified with it. We can sometimes fall completely into the dream of the conceptual mind. Most people actually live here all the time simply because they aren't aware that there is this other side that's more real than the conceptual world. But why is the mind so difficult to disidentify from? I know for me there would be times where I could clearly see that I wasn't my thoughts, but somehow they still had this pull on my attention, and there was also a tremendous amount of belief and thought. Literally anything the mind could come up with, I automatically believed it. It didn't matter if the thought was about me or someone else. I was convinced it was the truth. I was completely identified with thought, and it was causing so much pain and suffering. Now, most of us hear about the teachings of observing the mind and being the awareness of thought. And I do recommend that. It can really help you realize that you aren't your thoughts. It can help you see that thoughts are very spontaneous and they rise on their own, without the idea of a someone thinking them. But you actually can get to the point to where you no longer identify with the mind, that the mind can still be very active. And that can be really annoying, as if it just won't stop bringing thoughts up. And when you really dig deep into why this may be happening, it's usually caused by a belief that either thoughts are bad or that they shouldn't be here. There is some sort of resistance to thought that you may not be aware of, so if you are having this problem, there is a way to begin to diminish this. Even if you are still mind identified, this may actually be more beneficial for you to try rather than trying to become the observer. So here's what I want you all to try instead of trying to create distance from thought. Get as close as possible to it. Instead of running away from it, run straight into it. I heard a great teacher by the name of Angelo give a perfect analogy of this. So let's say you are watching a movie. When you are at a distance of the screen, you believe the characters on the screen are real, the shapes and colors are what they appear to be. You believe everything that's appearing to happen is actually happening. But what if you put your face very close to the screen that the movie is playing on? You begin to realize that what's appearing to happen on the screen isn't actually what's happening. You start to see what this screen is actually made of. You begin to investigate the screen and what it's made of. You begin to see all the little lines and squares on the screen. Then if you look closer and closer, you'll realize what's appearing to happen on the screen isn't actually happening at all. It's not real when you see what it really is. It only appears real when you back up and observe it from a distance. Basically, what I'm trying to point to is that when you are at distance of thought, it's almost as if it's a lot more believable and feels more like reality. Being the observer of thought is great in the beginning stages of awakening, but that does create a duality. Ultimately, you want to realize that everything is you and everything is one. I know you hear you are not your thoughts and you are not your body, and you aren't. But at the same time, everything is you, because everything is made out of you. And don't get confused about that. You can only realize exactly what I mean once you experience it. But if you get closed to thought, if you begin to be curious of what it's made of and not focused on the content of it, you'll realize it's not real. And if you're asking how do you get close to thoughts, it's very simple. You can actually turn this into a meditation practice. It will be very transformational. So what you want to do is first, basically invite thoughts to arise. All of those thoughts you are running away from, invite them, allow them to rise. Now what you want to be is be very alert. Catch every single thought that arises. And don't force this. Even though the language I am using is saying this is a practice, this practice isn't a doing. So don't strain yourself, relax, and just notice it all. Even the thoughts that are asking if you are doing this right, the thoughts that are confused, don't let a thought slip by. But instead of focusing on why these thoughts are here and instead of wondering when they will go away, ask yourself, what are these thoughts made of? And look for it in experience. Don't answer this with another thought. And don't listen to the thought that says, I don't know. Yes, the mind doesn't know and it can't know, but you do. And what should happen is you shouldn't come up with an answer. When you realize it, realize how you can't talk about what it's made of. You may be left with silence. There isn't any language you can attach to it. I can say it's made up of consciousness, but what is consciousness? It's made out of you. Doing this practice will constantly help you realize the truth of thought and its nature. You'll realize no thought actually has any reality to it. No thought really means anything at all. It's just a thought. You'll clearly be able to tell the difference from what the conceptual illusion world is compared to what's actually real. Most importantly, when you master this skill, thought will never be an issue again. Truly, over time, this will help get rid of those limiting beliefs that are hiding. And of course, the identification with thought will fall away. There isn't actually anything wrong with thoughts. The only issue is you have a belief that there is a thinker and may also believe there is someone here being affected by thoughts. But what you truly are cannot be touched by thought at all. What's happening is thought is fighting with thought, and because your sense of self is unfortunately in thought, it feels like you fighting against thought. What you are cannot be hurt. It cannot get caught up in thoughts. It has no issue with thoughts. You may also notice sometimes there will be no thoughts at all while doing this practice, and that's perfectly normal. When this happens, just see how long you can stay here. And while you're in no thought, notice that this is way more real than the conceptual dream. Reality isn't what you think. It is, literally.